You're watching LMCC.
Hi, I'm Kellie Murphy-Ringate, Fire Marshal and Public Educator for the Excelsior Fire District, and welcome to First Responder TV, your local public safety source, featuring training exercises, safety tips, and much more. Here's what's coming up on First Responder TV. We'll talk to Wayne Kewitsch, Executive Director of the Minnesota Firefighters Initiative, also known as MnFIRE. On Safety Source, the Excelsior Fire District's Controlled House Burn Training Drill. Dan Berent, the 2020 Mound Firefighter of the Year, goes above and beyond to serve the community on making a difference. Scam Alert will give you an update on the scams that have been targeting citizens in the lake area. Joining us today is Wayne Kewitsch, the Executive Director for MnFIRE. Wayne, thank you so much for taking time to join us today and answer some of our questions.
No problem, Kelly. Thanks for having me.
So I'd like to start out with your background. Tell us about your background and how you became the Executive Director for MnFIRE.
Okay, so my background is I'm a recently retired fire chief from the city of Richfield. I did just over 20 years and almost 25 years in the fire service. I started as a paid-on-call firefighter in St. Louis Park and was hired in Richfield in 2000, worked my way up from firefighter to lieutenant, assistant chief, and chief. July of last year, I had a sudden cardiac arrest while at home, and then had a second one while driving in August of last year. So that kind of precluded the end of my firefighting career. At that point, MnFIRE has grown to the point where it really needed somebody to handle the executive director responsibilities for the organization. It had been run completely by volunteers up to this point, and so people trying to do it with a day job, and with the organization growing, it was very difficult, and so they decided to add an executive director.
Do you mind telling us a little bit more about your experience?
So the first cardiac arrest, like I said, was July 1st. I was at home. I had just taken the garbage out to the curb and was walking back in, and I felt a really heavy pressure in my chest. And I had been dealing with some, reflux issues, and I thought that might be it. I didn't have any of the other symptoms, no sweating, no shortness of breath, nothing. And then it went away. And as first responders, we tend not to call right away just because we want to rule everything out. We don't think it's necessarily a heart. Sat down in my chair and sent a couple emails to the family, and next thing I know, I wake up, I'm in the back of the ambulance. My wife came out, she found me, yelled for our son who was downstairs in his bedroom. He came up, they moved me to the floor. He started doing chest compressions, and she called 911. So that one was caused by an 80% blockage of my left anterior descending coronary artery, also known as the widowmaker, because it typically doesn't give you any signs or symptoms, it just kills you. So I was fortunate. They put in some stents, opened me up. The next one was the end of August. We were driving up to Cross Lake to spend the weekend with some friends, and everything just went down to a pinpoint, got gray. My wife looked over, I was out, she had to grab the wheel. She drove us into a cattail marsh. We ended up in about 40 yards. And then the car behind us fortunately had a nurse, a couple, and then the wife is a nurse at Mercy Hospital. So Emily and Matt pulled over, got out. Emily tromped down into the swamp. She started doing compressions on me. Matt was calling 911, telling where I was. The first one on scene with a defibrillator was the emergency manager for the Mille Lacs Band. Monty Frank, I don't know if you know Monty.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I've known Monty for 15 years, and he's doing compressions on me, and they're asking Ruth who I am and getting my background, and she's like, "It's Wayne Kewitsch," and Monty goes, "This is Wayne?" He didn't recognize me, of course, because I was purple. Came to once in the car after they shocked me 7 times. They tromped me out of the swamp. I don't remember that on a backboard. I woke up in the back of the ambulance, and then next thing I know, I'm in a helicopter going back to the U.
It has a very happy ending.
It does have a happy ending that I'm here, yes.
And it's a great story for our viewers to hear.
Yeah, I couldn't recommend learning bystander CPR, and don't hesitate, just hands-only CPR. That's what made the difference for me twice.
So when did MnFIRE start?
MnFIRE started in 2016. There were 3 individuals that started it. Chief George Esbenson from Eden Prairie, Deputy Chief John Wolf from St. Louis Park, and Assistant Chief Mike Dobish from Richfield went to a seminar in Chicago. and they decided we needed to do something in Minnesota. You know, cardiac, cancer, emotional trauma affects firefighters at a much greater percentage than the general populace, and it's a job hazard. And what we want to do is everything we can to mitigate those hazards for our firefighters so they can live a long, healthy career.
So what services does MnFIRE provide for firefighters?
So MnFIRE does a few things. It does advocacy on these issues, it does training for firefighters, fire departments, and it offers peer support and a crisis helpline for people that are in crisis. And we also do research. We partner with the University of Minnesota and other physicians and researchers are in the area to do research on these three topics.
You already mentioned the three causes for firefighters' deaths. Can you elaborate why it's those causes and not other health issues?
So the number one cause of line of duty deaths for firefighters is cardiac. You know, people think, oh, firefighters are dying in buildings that are collapsing and they're dying in fires from smoke inhalation. That's not the case. It's firefighters dying from cardiac issues, you know, kind of like what I had. And what we're thinking right now, because they're unrecognized line of duty deaths, is cancer is actually probably the number one cause. Firefighters have a much higher incidence of several different cancers, and it doesn't get recognized as a line of duty death. But now there's research that is tying that together. And what we're trying to do is mitigate those hazards for our firefighters. When I started in the fire service, you would take off your air pack as soon as you could. You'd be inside a building, there'd still be smoke and soot, and you'd be working on overhaul, you know, making sure all the hot spots are out. But you got that air pack off as fast as possible, and that's changed. We don't do that any longer. Dirty gear was a sign of being, you know, a salty firefighter. And now everybody comes back and washes their gear immediately. They take it off, bag it on the scene. I mean, a fire is a hazardous materials incident. So, and we're starting to recognize that, and we're changing the culture in the fire service to recognize that and make everybody safer.
You also mentioned emotional trauma. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure, emotional trauma. So people in public safety see a lot of things that you really shouldn't see as an individual. And when you see a lot of that over the course of your career, it can build up and people can react to it in different ways. We want people to deal with it in a healthy way, you know, exercise, talk about it, you know, critical incident stress debriefing, things like that. But a lot of people don't necessarily do that or aren't aware of the tools that they need to handle this properly and in a healthy way. So that's one of the things MnFIRE does is in our training is we teach firefighters how to deal with these symptoms, how to recognize them, and how to tell their families to recognize these issues in them. And hopefully if they handle it in a healthy way. But if they don't, we have peer supporters throughout the state that we can hook them up with to talk about the issues. And then we also have a crisis helpline with professional clinicians that we can hook them up with that are trained in public safety.
So if a firefighter is using alcohol or drugs to adapt to that emotional trauma, you have services that you can provide to help them through that.
Yes, absolutely.
What is MnFIRE Aware?
So MnFIRE Aware is a 2-hour awareness training program for firefighters on the three topics: cardiac, cancer, and emotional trauma. So it's the first level of MnFIRE training. We also have a grant right now that we're working through where we were able to develop what we're calling deep dives on those three topics. So it's an additional 2 to 2.5 hours on cardiac, cancer, and emotional trauma.
How many firefighters have you reached so far?
So in the existence of MnFIRE, about 7,000 of the 20,000 firefighters in the state have had training at some level of MnFIRE training.
After fire departments receive this MnFIRE Aware and they go through the training, what have you seen fire departments change?
I think what we've seen more than anything is a lot more awareness on the cancer side. People are no longer wearing their turnout gear into the living quarters. They're being more cautious. They're wearing their air packs during the overhaul where they're checking for hot spots. They're more willing to talk about the emotional issues of firefighting and, you know, emotional trauma. They're much more aware of how to mitigate those risks than they were previously.
So have you seen an addition of equipment, specialized supplies or things put into service at fire departments because of MnAware?
Probably the first big thing that started to happen was second sets of gear. It takes time, and gear washers. You know, there were a lot of state departments that didn't have commercial extractors to pull the contaminants out of our gear. And then a lot of departments would have a single set of turnout gears. Well, they'd have a fire and they wouldn't want to wash it right away because they'd have to wait till they were off duty the next day to wash their gear. So they're wearing dirty gear that whole entire time. So now we have, a lot of departments have a second set of gear so they can put that gear out of service, get it washed, keep it isolated while it's being decontaminated, and then still have gear that they can respond with. Eating has changed dramatically in the fire service. When I was on shift back in the day, it was meat and potatoes and gravy and all of that every day. You had to have potatoes every night. We're seeing a lot more healthy choices.
In the last 12 months, have you seen an increase in the emotional trauma for firefighters or cardiac issues or diagnosis of cancer? Has there been a difference since COVID?
Well, last year we saw an increase in the use of our peer supporters and our intake line, and that was early on in the pandemic. And as firefighters and a lot of public safety personnel, you kind of build up I don't want to say an immunity, but you get into an operational tempo where you kind of understand the hazards a little bit more. I mean, initially last March or a year ago from now, people didn't know. We've had several cardiac deaths in the state of firefighters in the last 12 months, which quite honestly for me shows me how lucky I am. I mean, every time I hear about one, it's like, why did I survive and they didn't, so you question that. And then the cancer diagnoses, a lot of times we don't necessarily find out about them until they're actually gone, because they don't realize that there is that connection between the two.
Can you tell us about the Hometown Heroes Assistance Program?
So the Hometown Heroes Assistance Program is a bill that's currently being heard at the legislature, and we're hoping that it gets funded. And what it will provide is three basic things. One, it will provide a critical incident insurance policy for all of the firefighters in the state. So if they get a diagnosis of cardiac or cancer or some other related issues, it'll pay out $20,000, $30,000 to that individual to cover all the ancillary expenses that insurance doesn't necessarily cover. Like if they're traveling to the university or they're traveling to Mayo, the hotel rooms will have cash to be able to cover that. The second thing it will do is it'll fund a statewide employee assistance program. 90% of the firefighters in the state of Minnesota are volunteers or paid on call, and they don't necessarily have access to an employee assistance program that can provide some of that emotional trauma counseling and things that normal full-time employees get. So that would provide that statewide for every firefighter. And then the third thing, it would provide funding for MnFIRE to continue to train firefighters across the state in these issues. And then also it would allow us to train healthcare professionals to recognize the issues of firefighters. A lot of physicians, when you go in for your annual physical, you give them a list of, I'm a firefighter, I need these tests. And they go, no, you don't need those tests. And you're like, yeah, I need these tests. I want to detect the cancer early. I want to detect the cardiac stuff early. And we want to make providers aware of those issues that we face as firefighters.
So how does a family member or a firefighter contact MnFIRE when they have, they have things related to these issues, or they want to get more involved?
So they can go to our website, MnFIREinitiative.com, click on the About Us, and there's Contact Us or Ways to Help. There's all tabs for all of those things, and they can reach out to me or Dee Dee, who's our Director of Program Delivery. And also, if you recognize a firefighter that might be in crisis, we do have a helpline, an 888 number that's on the website that's available 24/7. We try to get back to people within an hour during the day, and sometimes at night it can take a couple hours. But like I said, it's an 888 number people can reach out to, and we put them in touch with peer support, clinicians, whatever they need to help them out.
So is there anything that I didn't ask you or we didn't talk about that you want to add?
So I'm excited to announce, this is the first time publicly we've announced it, is that we have a partnership with Brighter Days Grief Center and 911 at Ease. Brighter Days will be able to provide grief support for families that are experiencing cancer and that are having issues, so now we can start helping families. And 911 at Ease is a nationwide nonprofit that provides trained counselors, clinicians. What it's going to do is broaden our network of trained clinicians statewide.
Thank you. This has been an incredible interview. Thank you so much for taking the time to come down and share all this wonderful knowledge with our audience, which is made up of a lot of firefighters and families. When we come back, watch the Excelsior Fire District firefighters as they do live burn training on Safety Source. But first, the Minnesota COVID-19 Vaccine Connector is a tool that helps Minnesotans find out when, where, and how to get the COVID-19 vaccine.
The Minnesota COVID-19 Vaccine Connector is a tool to help you easily find and connect with local vaccine providers in your area. All Minnesotans are encouraged to sign up for the Vaccine Connector so you'll know when it's your turn for a shot. To get signed up, go to vaccineconnector.mn.gov. You will need to provide a few details about yourself. You'll need your demographic details such as race, ethnicity, gender, and age, medical history, including current or past ailments, and your contact information, including your address, phone number, and email. After you fill out the simple form, the Vaccine Connector will notify you if there are vaccine opportunities in your area and connect you to resources to schedule a vaccine appointment. You will be notified by text, email, or phone call by one of the state vaccination partners running those sites. All Minnesotans 16 years of age and older are eligible to receive a vaccine. Minnesota has directed providers to prioritize vaccine appointments for people most at risk of getting COVID-19 or those who could develop severe illness if infected. This includes older Minnesotans, those with underlying health conditions, and those in essential jobs. When it's your turn, get your vaccine. After you've had your shot, continue following these safe practices to protect your neighbors while they wait for their vaccine. If you have questions about the Vaccine Connector or need assistance filling it out, please call the Minnesota COVID-19 Vaccine Connector hotline at 833-431-2053. Every Minnesotan ages 16 years and older is eligible to get their shot.
Today we're working on basic firefighter skills in what we call an acquired structure. We're doing fire suppression activities, primary search and rescue, and hydraulic ventilation, as well as accountability. So these are all basic firefighter skills that we're practicing today that we have on every fire. We've seen incipient stage of the fire, we've seen pre-roll flashover, we've seen rollover. We're seeing some extension beyond the surface of the building into the structure. We're seeing thermal layering. We're seeing heavy black smoke and brown smoke and gray smoke and what those mean to the firefighters. So they're actually reading the smoke and they understand what that's telling them, how far away the fire is, how hot it is, and what their best attack is to the fire. So just like a golfer goes out, hits balls every day to get that muscle memory, so when they get out on the course, they're as best that they can possibly be. That's our driving range. We're going out, getting that muscle memory, putting on our turnout gear, hooking up to air, breathing air, crawling on our hands and knees, pulling charged hose lines, using ticks, communicating on radios, talking to our SCBAs, doing hydraulic ventilation, suppression, all the things that we need to do so when we get into these situations, we have this muscle memory inventory to help us react smarter, safer, and better every time we're in there. Just knock it down, Chad. One thing that's really interesting about this property is its layout. We don't have a neighbor right about us. We don't have any exposures. It was built before the 1970s, so it has a lot of true size dimensional lumber. It is great for fire suppression. And with that, it requires us to burn clean material, pallets, straw, and cardboard. What we would typically encounter in a home would be a lot more petroleum-based products, couches, carpet, cable TVs. That stuff burns much blacker and much hotter. So this isn't completely realistic, but it's as close as we can without having a tremendous environmental impact to the neighborhood. But it really is important to continue to have acquired structure fire training. It's the best training we can get, but we don't get a lot of opportunities. No, he's gonna ventilate out that corner. We categorize each side of the house as Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, or Delta. So everybody understands what door they're going in, what side of the house they're on. Division bosses are placed at those different strategic locations, and so it helps us manage the fire ground more safely and more effectively. Better search We always work within our mutual aid partners, and these are all of our mutual aid partners. People that we call when we have a typical fire like this to come in and help support in a collaborative effort to make this as safe as possible without extending anybody beyond their limits. Because we've all learned we need as much help as we can possibly get on these types of events.
All right, Brian, hit it again.
It's a calling. It gets in people's blood, and they love to do it. And it means something really important to them to stay proficient and to stay professional and stay as much on their game as they possibly can. So I can't thank the group that came out here enough. We've trained 3 Saturdays in a row at this house, and we've always had max capacity of 30 to 35 people out here trying their best, doing the best they possibly can. So hats off to them, because they are the ones that make all this happen and make it all work well.
Yo, Scott.
Hey.
I'm heading out, man. You want to ride?
No, I got my car, but I actually really need to go to the bathroom.
Oh, you know what? I was just in there. The line is like 10 people long.
You know, I think I'll just...
Dude, are you okay?
You wouldn't believe what I was just thinking. I am definitely buzzed.
Yeah.
I think I will take this, and I will take that ride home.
Smart man.
Did you see how that dog was looking at me?
Welcome back to First Responder TV. We'll spotlight a member of the community that goes above and beyond in our segment, Making a Difference. This month, it's the 2020 Mound Firefighter of the Year, Dan Berent.
It's truly an honor, a surprise. I'm very humbled by the experience to be voted Firefighter of the Year by my peers. This is 5.5 years in Mound. I've been a firefighter for the last 18 years. I started in a small town out west called Montrose, Minnesota. I moved out to a town where I didn't know anybody at all. I thought maybe, giving back to my community would be a good chance for me to get to know some people out there. And I made a lot of really close friends. Put 12 years on out there, and lo and behold, came back home here. But it's always been a dream of mine to actually serve in my hometown. My whole family grew up, lived here. Community service is a big thing. It was always a big thing in my family. My dad was a police reserve for the city of Mound. If you don't have people that step up and do it, who's gonna do it, is my attitude. So if I wake up in the middle of the night for a call and I don't feel like going, that thought goes through my head all the time. If I don't do it, who else will? Nobody ever calls you on their best day, they always call you on their worst. And if you can make anything better, showing up. We have a very good fire department here. Our response times are excellent. Our turnout, both day and night, weekends are excellent. If you're at all thinking about becoming a firefighter, it is by far the most gratifying job that you'll ever have. I can't say I regret any portion of it. Plus it's fun that you get to see that sparkle in every kid's eye when you drive by with the sirens going. 2020 allowed a lot of people to step up and be here. I'm very humbled and thankful that I'm seen as a very productive firefighter in this organization. Those who voted for me, thank you. Those who didn't, thank you too.
The Lake Minnetonka Communications Commission, located in Spring Park, creates a variety of high-quality public, educational, and government programming for our member cities.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
LMCC operates 4 channels. Channel 8, or HD 808, offers city council meetings in high definition.
Thank you for being here, Secretary Simon. I know you have a number of proposals on your legislative agenda. What's your #1 priority?
Staff-produced community programming airs on Channel 12, or HD 812. Channel 20 features school board and other government agency meetings. And local public access programming airs on Channel 21. LMCC channels are available on Mediacom cable, as well as streaming on demand via our website. Whether it's in the studio, online, or on location, we have it covered.
He splits them, and it's over.
LMCC helps local communities engage with their citizens by creating informational and educational programming that brings their message to the masses. State of the City addresses,
Greetings to the residents of St. Bonifacius. My name is Carrie Taylor.
Community forums, construction projects, PSAs, and public safety videos are just a few examples of how LMCC connects cities to their citizens.
Our water tower is a graceful icon that we can take pride in.
For more information about our production services, please contact the Lake Minnetonka Communications Commission, your community media center.
It's time for Scam Alert. This segment alerts the public of scams that have been reported to local police departments.
The Minnesota Department of Health is warning Minnesotans to avoid COVID-19 vaccine scams. Here are some common telephone and email scams that have been recently reported. They ask for your personal or credit card information. The Minnesota Department of Health and healthcare providers will never contact you and ask for your credit card, bank account, or social security number in order to get the COVID-19 vaccine. They offer to sell you the vaccine. If you get a call or email where the person is offering the vaccine at a low price, this is a scam. The vaccine is free to everyone no matter if you have insurance or not. They offer to ship you the vaccine. You need to get your vaccine from a medical professional, and the vaccine cannot be shipped directly to you. Someone offers to sell you a CDC vaccination card. Legitimate vaccination cards are given by providers when they administer the vaccine. People who buy fraudulent CDC cards can have their own information added to the card, so it appears they've been vaccinated when they have not. These deceptive cards threaten the health of the community and violate many state laws. If you think you spot a COVID-19 scam, do not respond to it. You can file a complaint with the Minnesota Attorney General's office at www.ag.state.mn.us. Tech support scammers want you to believe you have a serious problem with your computer, like a virus. They want you to pay for tech support services you don't need to fix a problem that doesn't exist. They often ask you to pay by wiring money, putting money on a gift card or prepaid card, or using a money transfer app because they know these types of payments can be hard to reverse. Tech support scammers use many different tactics to trick people, including phone calls, pop-up warnings, or online ads. Another version of this scam is the tech support refund. You receive an email that states, "Thank you for your payment. Your account has been debited with $499.29 for the auto-renewable plan of your Norton family. In addition, we are compensating you for this inconvenience cost, offering you an Amazon gift card with a balance of $89.99, which you can use for online shopping." While there are many variations of the tech support refund scam, no one is giving out free refunds or gift cards. They're trying to steal your money. Do not give out your bank account, credit card, or other payment information. If a tech support scammer contacts you, report it to the Federal Trade Commission at reportfraud.ftc.gov. The Hennepin County Sheriff's Office has received multiple reports from residents who have received telephone calls from individuals posing as Hennepin County Sheriff's Office staff. These callers are saying that there's a warrant out for their arrest because they missed a federal court appearance and are in contempt. The phone scammers tell residents that they will be arrested unless they pay a fine. The scammers pressure them to purchase prepaid money transfer cards, such as MoneyPack, and call them back to read the numbers on the cards. The Hennepin County Sheriff's Office and other law enforcement agencies will never contact individuals via phone or email to ask for payment. If you receive such a call, you should not provide any personal information or make any payments to the caller. You cannot rely on caller ID or recorded messages to verify the origin of a phone call. Phone scammers are able to use technology to appear as if they are calling from a legitimate law enforcement or government agency number. Anyone who believes they have been victimized by a scam caller should record the caller's number, save any voicemails, and contact their local law enforcement agency.
Thanks for watching First Responder TV, your local public safety source. If you have an idea for a segment, an upcoming fire prevention or public safety event, please let us know. This is Kellie Murphy-Ringate giving you information you can use, share, and to live by. See you next time.